Welcome back to Cheddar's Opening Bell. Well, Twitter shares taking a hit this morning as the president lashes out at his favorite social media platform, threatening to shut down Twitter or heavily regulate it. Well, this after Twitter did flag those two tweets of the president's about mail-in ballots, and fact checkers saying that there is no evidence that mail-in ballots are linked to voter fraud. And joining us now is Elizabeth Coliford. She's a social media correspondent for Reuters. Elizabeth, a huge story this morning, and Twitter has come under heat since the 2016 election for not reining in the president on its platform. And so why is Twitter doing this now?
I mean, as you say, like Twitter has never put a fact-checking label on a tweet by the president before. I mean, this whole thing actually comes out of a policy that they unveiled earlier this month that Twitter said was primarily about putting sort of labels on disputed or misleading content that was about the coronavirus. So, and then they said at this time that they would be extending it out into other topics. And that's what we saw yesterday when they put a fact check label for the first time on two of President Trump's tweets. So, I mean, we see changes in policy, you know, in the run up to major elections like the US election in November. But I think also the coronavirus and the misinformation around that.
So I just want you to be clear, Elizabeth. I mean, does this
For social media
coincide with a timely change in policy? It's been Twitter's policy for a long time, right, to try to provide a little bit more transparency and policing of the platform. It hasn't been as aggressive as many investors and as many Americans would like.
Yeah, I mean, it's long been criticized by, you know, certain critics who say that, you know, they haven't policed the platform, and, you know, President Trump, who has over 80 million followers on there, has often been held up as an example for critics who think that Twitter should be more aggressive. And yeah, I mean, this debate over fact-checking has been across many
So it's interesting. President Trump obviously
program, but they don't.
Yeah, sorry, Elizabeth. I think I lost your audio there for a second, but I just want to jump in because President Trump, for years, right, has been retweeting, tweeting his own content that has been fact checked and proven to be wrong, not necessarily by Twitter, obviously, but by other journalists and other organizations. Conspiracy theories have been promoted on his account at times. And so, what is it about this particular topic, the mail-in ballots, that makes that topic different from the conspiracy theories and other content that we've seen President Trump push out?
So, I mean, when I spoke to a Twitter spokesman yesterday, they said it was the fact that this related to election integrity that made this different. I mean, I was asking, you know, what the difference between this was and instances where they haven't taken an action, like yesterday on the same day, they decided that they would not remove tweets from President Trump that were about the death of a former congressional staff member for Joe Scarborough. The New York Times published a letter, you know, that was from the widower of that woman to Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, asking for those tweets to be removed, and Twitter said that they wouldn't be removing them. So, I mean, the only answer that they gave me was that, you know, was the fact that this related to the integrity of an election, and that was the difference really here.
So, the next question is, how far does this go? Do we see Twitter expand its scope in terms of election integrity, expanding that to other factors, other elements of the president's content? Do you have any indication from Twitter as to how far this can go?
I mean, when I talked to them a bit about what, you know, about the tweets relating to Joe Scarborough from the president, they did indicate that they were looking at expanding some of their existing policies and their existing features, so that I think their phrase was something like, so that they can more effectively address things like this in the future. So that seems to be a bit of a signal that we will be seeing some changes. But I mean, I think these so far have been on very specific types of information. Like if this is around election integrity, we also in recent months have seen them debut a manipulated media label, which is for when they think a video is deceptively edited. They debuted that on a video of Joe Biden that was retweeted by President Trump a few months ago. So we are seeing these moves of sort of more aggressive policing, but it's on very specific content.
As our social media expert, do you think that this can be effective?
I don't think I can comment on whether it would be effective or not, but I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
Okay, let's talk about President Trump's response, tweeting, sending the stock lower, saying that, well, threatening to shut down Twitter or to heavily regulate it. Is that a concern of Twitter's, first of all? And second of all, can the president do that? Do you think that's a likely outcome, that he actually shuts down his platform of choice that got him elected in 2016?
I mean, President Trump is a prolific user of Twitter. He has a huge following on there. I mean, this is not the first time that he has criticized social media platforms, whether it be Twitter, Facebook. You know, he's criticized Google for what he says are sort of allegations of social media bias. I mean, he held a social media summit at the White House last year where he gathered who shared these frustrations. He has kind of made these indications in the past, but we don't know what this sort of regulation that he's suggesting in the tweet could look like. We don't know if it is related to some of the antitrust probes that are going on or anything to do with that, or if it is a separate thought.
Is there evidence that you've seen, Elizabeth, or that the company has been able to cite of Republican bias?
I mean, the company denies the allegations. All of the social media companies have denied that there's Republican bias, anti-Republican bias in how they police content. I think some of them have potentially said that there may be, has been a skew in kind of employment or something like that.
Elizabeth Culliford, I think we're losing your audio there, but thank you so much for joining us on a very big story this morning. Elizabeth is a social media correspondent for Reuters.